Hey everyone, Andrew Meet Rich here, and we need to talk about what's happening in Europe right now because the European Commission is about to drop something massive. On Thursday, October 16th, they're unveiling a complete defense roadmap for the entire European Union, stretching all the way to 2030. And here's what makes this interesting. Ursula von der Leyen won't even be the one presenting it. Instead, they're sending out the EU Commissioner for Defense Industry and Space, Andrius Kubilius, alongside Kaja Kallas, the EU's High Representative for Foreign Affairs and Security Policy. That tells you something right there. When the top brass steps aside and lets the defense specialists handle the announcement, this isn't just another bureaucratic document. This is about real preparation, real strategy, and the kind of planning that suggests Europe is bracing for something significant. The details are still under wraps, creating this massive intrigue, but I'll break down everything important as soon as it drops. Now, I used to be inside one of those big mainstream outlets, watching how they'd spin stories to fit whatever narrative served them best. I saw the machinery up close, and I walked away from it. These days I work independently, I answer to nobody, and I tell you what actually matters, not what someone wants you to believe. And if you appreciate that kind of honesty, do me a favor, hit that like button right now and subscribe to this channel. And look, I'm going to be real with you. Running an independent operation like this isn't easy. If you believe in what we're doing here, if you value getting the unfiltered truth, consider becoming a channel sponsor. It's people like you who make it possible for me to keep doing this work without compromise, without pressure, without anyone telling me what I can or cannot say. But let's get into what's happening in Germany because this is fascinating. Friedrich Merz's coalition just announced a plan that has British media buzzing, and honestly, it's pretty clever. German pensioners are about to get a sweet deal, but there's a catch. Here's the setup. Germany's economy has been stagnating for 3 years straight. They're facing a massive shortage of skilled workers, and their workforce is aging fast. So what's Merz doing? He's allowing citizens who choose to work after reaching retirement age to earn up to 2,000 euros per month completely tax-free. Now, working after retirement is already legal in Germany, just like in most of Europe, but this tax incentive makes it way more attractive. And think about the strategy here. They're not just throwing money at the problem. They're keeping experienced workers in companies longer, preserving institutional knowledge, boosting employment levels overall, driving economic growth, and actually increasing state revenues in the long run. Leading German economists are already explaining this to the public, framing it as society showing that it values the contributions of older people who choose to stay active. They're even talking about the positive psychological effect, how it sets an example for others, not to just sit idle, but to remain useful to society while getting nice bonuses for it. It's a message wrapped in economic policy. Whether it works remains to be seen, but you have to admit it's a more thoughtful approach than just raising retirement ages and calling it a day. And while we're on Germany, there's another significant development. The German government is working hard, and they're not hiding it, on supporting reconstruction in the Gaza sector. This is going to require massive expenditures. Development Minister Svenja Schulze is planning to initially place 850 temporary shelters along the coast. Beyond temporary housing, they've announced repairs to water systems and schools, plus a job creation program. Germany is making it clear they're going all in on this, participating in the full reconstruction effort. So we're watching this closely to see how it unfolds and what the broader implications are. Meanwhile, over in France, things are deteriorating exactly as expected. On October 16th, the French National Assembly, the lower house of parliament, is voting on not one, but two no-confidence motions against the government. Both the right and the far left have initiated these votes. Immediately after Prime Minister Sébastien Lecornu announced his new government, remember he was appointed for the second time by President Emmanuel Macron, he already received notice of no confidence. Mathilde Panot, leader of the parliamentary faction of the party called France Unbowed, had some advice for the newcomers. Don't unpack your boxes too quickly, she said, because it's coming. And following that will be Macron's departure. That's what the left announced, word for word. Marine Le Pen, leader of the National Rally, has called on the president to announce the dissolution of the National Assembly as soon as possible. Le Pen assured everyone that early elections would lead to victory for her right-wing party, so we'll see what happens. The intrigue here is enormous, and it continues to build. Let's see what actually goes down on October 16th. If you're finding this valuable, drop a comment below with your thoughts. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps get this content out to more people. Now let's talk about some news from the United States, and we need to address Donald Trump. Look, I'm not a fan, but let's stick to what actually happened. Trump demanded that Time magazine replace his photo on the cover of their new issue. The president expressed dissatisfaction that in the picture, the hair on his head had disappeared and something resembling a tiny floating crown appeared on his scalp. He's never liked being photographed from different angles, but this is a particularly bad shot, Trump emphasized, and it deserves to be recalled. That's what the American president said. What are they doing and why? He asked with indignation. Some people saw this as humor, others interpreted it differently. Make of that what you will, but it certainly tells you something about priorities. Trump also praised Egyptian authorities for strong leadership, noting that the country doesn't have serious crime, meaning in Egypt specifically. According to the US president, in Egypt you can walk calmly through a park without being robbed or shot at. Everything depends on leadership. That's what the American president emphasized. Again, it's an interesting observation given everything else happening domestically, but we're just presenting what he said. And speaking of what's happening domestically, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is warning that the situation is becoming serious. To ensure payments to the military, they're having to delay funding for other departments, including even the National Zoo. Some employees of federal agencies are being sent on unpaid leave across all states. This is what they're calling a shutdown, and nobody knows when it might end. The financial strain is real, the consequences are tangible, and we're watching a government struggle to meet its basic obligations. But let's set aside all that complexity for a moment, because there are some interesting developments today that are honestly just bizarre. First one's from Germany. In a first-class compartment of a train from Essen to Cologne, unknown individuals, who haven't been identified yet, turned the compartment into a mobile chicken coop. They decided to transport several chickens, but not in cages. Apparently out of love for domestic poultry, to avoid causing them stress, they covered the compartment with straw and soil, making it look like a native chicken coop. Federal police are now searching for the unknown culprits. Analysis of video recordings could take several days. According to German law, transporting animals this way is an administrative violation due to contamination of railway facilities. We'll see if they find them or not. But here's where things get really wild. In Poland, an incredible story unfolded, and I can't describe it any other way. A fake social media post turned against a real person in the worst way possible. A publication appeared on Facebook claiming that a local farmer was supposedly giving away potatoes for free because he couldn't sell his harvest due to low purchase prices. The message instantly spread, thousands of users reposted it, and comments filled with words of support for the farmer who was sacrificing his harvest for other people. Even the village elder, believing the post was true, publicly praised this act. And the very next day, residents from surrounding villages began arriving en masse at the field. Some came with bags, some with wheelbarrows, and the more audacious ones showed up with tractors. In short, the potato harvest under the slogan, "We won't let the crop go to waste," went extremely quickly. They removed about 150 tons of potatoes with an estimated value of roughly €13,500. But later it turned out the whole story was completely fabricated. The real owner of the field, a farmer named Piotr Grito, who was treated pretty harshly as you can understand, had no desire to give anything away. When he arrived to check his plot, all the potatoes, without the slightest loss, had been thoroughly harvested. Now some locals, realizing they believed a social media scam, are trying to return the potatoes to him. However, the case has already been handed to the prosecutor's office. There's no getting around that. The farmer himself stated he intends to push for an investigation, and unfortunately, the author of the fake post remains unknown. It's worth noting immediately that this year, Poland faced a good harvest and a collapse in purchase prices. That's what farmers are dealing with. Farmers are receiving prices for potatoes that are 5 to 10 times lower than what they sell for in stores. That's the situation we're looking at today. So before we wrap up, let's remember what we covered. The European Union is rolling out a major defense roadmap on October 16th with serious implications for the continent's security posture. Germany is implementing clever economic policy with tax-free income for working pensioners, while also committing major resources to Gaza reconstruction. France's government is facing dual no-confidence votes that could reshape their political landscape entirely. Trump is focused on magazine covers while the US Treasury struggles with a shutdown affecting federal operations. And we've seen everything from chickens on trains to social media hoaxes resulting in mass potato theft in Poland. These stories paint a picture of a world dealing with both serious strategic challenges and absolutely absurd moments of human behavior. This is the kind of reporting you won't get from the corporate outlets, the ones that answer to boardrooms and advertisers. If this matters to you, if you value getting the full picture without the spin, hit that like button and subscribe. And honestly, if you can, consider becoming a channel sponsor. This channel runs on the support of people who believe independent journalism still matters, who want the truth even when it's uncomfortable or complicated. Your support means I can keep doing this without compromise, and that matters more than you might realize. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Tell me what you think about everything happening. I'll be back tomorrow with more. Stay informed, stay alert, and remember, the truth is always worth fighting for.